For now, I'd like to throw it over to Jo, who will commence proceedings. Jo, the floor is yours.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Great opportunity to just share the updates with those interested. So we shared with the market this week about our current corporate update in these challenging environments, and we're in a fortunate position in terms of really delivering growth across all our pillars. So I'll talk through those. You know, at the moment, I guess in terms of both our key areas of business, that being our pharma or medical division, and also our consumer division that we have an exclusive license through H&H. We have really well-branded, premium, proven and trusted products across both those markets. Currently, we have quite an extensive product range, having recently added to the medical suite of products on offer. And also you'll see our recent launches in the UK and this week in Australia under the Swiss brands. So really building an extensive product range across both those verticals. We're very well established both in Australia and the UK. And we have other international markets currently being earmarked for near-term expansion. We continue to lead the way through R&D with some of the collaborations with our research partners, and some of those we've spoken about include the Lambert Initiative, UTS, and other hospitals both in Queensland, South Australia and in Victoria, where we're conducting a number of clinical trials. And of course, those clinical trials are really important not only for the healthcare professional and their education, but the overall education for the CBD and hemp market and the benefits. We're in the position of a strong capital structure, and we're also growing in terms of our revenue base quite substantially over the previous financial year. We, of course, continue to manage our cost structure, and it's not at the expense of key hires in terms of our executive team and in terms of R&D, such that they support future pillars for growth. So just over to our current prescriptions. Year to date, we're at just over 3,000 filled since July 2019. And we continue to gain market share in the domestic market. We're aligned with a number of the cannabis clinics. Our full spectrum 5% product has the largest share of this prescription. However, we have just launched 2 other isolate products which are classed as Schedule 4, and they have less complications around not only the way the patient uses them, but also the way the doctor can prescribe them. We look at things like churn rate because we think that's really important in terms of both patient satisfaction and doctor satisfaction, i.e. obviously if they're not dropping off, we know that the product is really working for the treated indications. We also look at the different types of treatments that it's being prescribed for, and 74% of prescriptions are used to treat chronic pain, epilepsy and anxiety. And in terms of COVID-19 and the new world we work with, because medicinal cannabis is prescribed for what we call chronic conditions, we're not seeing any drop-off of prescriptions. In fact, one of our clinics had the best month in March. And quite interestingly, you'll see that everyone's turning to telehealth. So this is also a efficient, cost-effective, and in this climate, a great way in which patients can be, can connect to their doctor in a safe environment. And we're seeing telehealth being used more and more, and in fact actually becoming central to often the clinic's business models. And then moving to the UK, we've spent the last few months really working in that market and setting up the right partners, the right distribution partners, and educating the healthcare professionals. So we expect that to start rolling out this month, hopefully, with our first prescription, and that will obviously hopefully start the whole ball rolling in the UK market. We've also spoken to the market with regards to our partnership with Project 21, which again is expected to commence in the near term. They're looking to access over 20,000 patients, and it's the largest medicinal cannabis study that has been undertaken in Europe. And it will provide a very rich data source for doctors, government officials in terms of how people are using cannabis and medical cannabis and what the prescriptions are for. Part of obviously Bod is obviously our great partnership with Health and Happiness Group, which was announced to market last July. And currently we're in the stage of really ramping up growth and market and launching products. We recently launched the 9 hemp seed oil products under the Swiss brand in over 2,000 outlets, which includes retailers such as Chemist Warehouse, Priceline and Coles. They're also under Swiss brand. Will be more products being launched in the coming months. That footprint will also be expanded under Swiss in the USA, France, Italy and Netherlands in the near term. We also recently launched products under a brand called CB2, which is H&H's premium cannabis brand. It's what we call a D2C model, which is an online model. So less reliant on bricks and mortar, obviously. And those sales have been going really well, and we're also in the coming weeks launching more products in the UK under that brand. And again, under that brand, we'll be launching into the US. And I guess the overall comment we'd make there is that in this current environment, consumers are really turning to preventative healthcare measures, and often preventative healthcare measures are taken in the form of supplementation. And of course, you naturally think about immune products, but what we're seeing, sadly, is an incredible rise of stress and anxiety in this current climate. So, you know, they're not only looking for immune products, but they're also looking for products that can support these particularly stressful times. We also, just in terms of our R&D focus, it's all about driving innovation and creating pillars for future growth. So some of the things we're currently undertaking is a novel food application for our Medicatalyst product in Europe and the UK. What that does effectively is it cements our position, because CBD is classed as a novel food, and technically you have to have a novel food registration to sell your product. Whilst it hasn't been enforced or mandated, they have given a deadline of March 2021 to have that registration. So we're moving forward in terms of that application, which just as I said, positions us very well in Europe and the UK. And in parallel to that, we're completing a registration in the USA, pursued with the FDA, which is called GRAS, generally recognised as safe. We also have recently partnered with a US manufacturer for the development of cannabis wafer. The indications will be specifically used at this stage in the medical division, and we're specifically looking at indications such as stress, anxiety and chronic pain. We continue to pursue current and future collaborations with our top tier universities and medical organisations. We've worked quite extensively to date with the Lambert Initiative. We continue to work with UTS on our novel proteins. With University of South Australia, they did a deep dive into our phase 1 study and looking more at that data to assess market opportunities, and other hospitals such as Gold Coast University. And just in terms of the balance sheet, as I said, we're in a very fortunate position with a cash balance of 7.2 at the end of March with no debt. And this allows us a really good cash position to pursue further growth opportunities. you know, and coupled with that, we're in a stage where our revenue is growing significantly as we're commercialising really all of our key verticals, both in medical and through H&H. Our revenue currently to date at the end of March is 3.4 million. We have another $1 million in binding purchase orders already booked for this current quarter, and we still expect growth over and above this, leading up to the end of June. As you'd expect, there's been a key focus on cash burn, and that has considerably been reduced from Q3 2019 to Q3 2020. This is aided by the R&D grant that we just received as well, but it is very much reflected in a growth not only in our revenue, but making sure that our capital structure supports growth and focused on innovation. And just in conclusion, defining our near-term revenue drivers, the things we'll be talking to market about is the themes around medicinal cannabis sales for both Australia and the UK and potentially New Zealand. You'll see us continue to expand products under the Swiss brand, both locally and in those international markets I referred to earlier. We're broadening the product offering and range under the CB2 brand in the UK in the coming months, and also that will then scale and launch into the US. And you'll also see ongoing R&D initiatives that support both our medical cannabis products and also our innovation pipeline for Health and Happiness Group. And we'll continue to optimise our costs by focusing on key strategic projects to achieve industry-leading growth and near-term revenue opportunities. And that is the conclusion of my presentation.
Thanks very much, Jo. Really fascinating stuff, and we obviously look forward to seeing how those things progress in the near term. Look, we've had a couple of questions that have come through during the course of your presentation. The first one comes from Alex Smith at Packer Partners. He wants to know, what are you seeing in the UK recently on the medicinal cannabis front? Has the relaxation in import regulations from the NHS made it easier to assess patient demand and prescribe products to patients in the Project 2021 trial?
The recent regulation changes that the NHS made is more pertaining to products containing THC. So our portfolio of products are effectively from a hemp plant and very low levels of THC. So we're classed quite differently to those products. The level of THC in our product is below the 0.3%. So we still offer a full plant extract with the benefits of all the cannabinoids, but we don't fall into that same category. So arguably, it's easier for us to import our products into the UK. We are already really well set up in the UK with product in market ready to prescribe. So as I said, you know, we'd already set up our infrastructure and distribution and product on the ground. For us now, it's really just about rolling that out.
And in terms of the healthcare products, can you briefly explain how H&H and Swiss are thinking about CBD as a product category and where they see it fitting globally in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, sure. Just in terms of their view, and I guess our view, obviously it's a new category that's growing globally. And I'd say that, you know, H&H really are the first mainstream brand to really get behind and involved in this category. And whilst we believe there's still a lot to understand in terms of what are the consumer benefits, what are the benefits that CBD bring, health benefits to consumers, we're already seeing areas such as anxiety, stress and immune have a real opportunity in terms of CBD and the role that CBD can have here. So our focus is very much about building education, awareness, and benefit. And, you know, our focus also is on markets where perhaps that awareness and education is better, and also the regulatory environment supports our go-to-market strategy. And so that's why we're very focused on the US, the UK, and other markets such as that, where it's just a clearer path to market, and education and awareness amongst consumers is better understood. But yeah, we really, education really underpins what we do, building awareness and continuing to look at the benefits and health benefits that CBD has for consumers.
So we had a third one come from a private investor. With your international expansion with Swiss, do you intend to only sell online, or will you be distributing your products to retail stores like you have done in Australia?
Yeah, so each brand under the H&H group have a slightly different way that they sell to consumers. So the CB2 brand is effectively focused on a D2C model, e-commerce model. The Swiss brand is very much about both online and also bricks and mortar. So the strategy in terms of and distribution of those products will be across both healthcare stores, pharmacies, online, so quite varied.
So in the company's recent corporate update, you said that Bod supplied approximately 330,000 units to H&H since January 2020. Does this include CB2 products, or is that just pipe fill for the retail stores stocking the Swiss wellness products?
Yeah, no, that's for the CB2 products and the Swiss products that we've supplied to date.
Okay. And another one that came through, can GPs prescribe Bod products via telehealth consultation?
Absolutely. Effectively, telehealth is not replacing, but is exactly the same process by which you see your doctor on a one-to-one consult. That doctor can write you a prescription over that telehealth consult, and that prescription that can then be fulfilled and dispensed through your pharmacy.
Fantastic, Jo. Look, we're just going to, if there are any more questions that have come through, if you have any more questions, by all means, send them through. But in fact, one has just come through as we speak now, Jo. So the company has a fairly strong cash balance at the moment. Can you give any indication of what kind of runway this gives the company, and whether or not they would seek any M&A opportunities?
Sure. Just in terms of runway, based on our current cash burn, we have a runway of 21 months. So, you know, it is a great position to be in, because we can turn our attention not to operational and cash issues. We can actually turn our focus on how do we innovate in this difficult time? How do we take opportunities as they will present themselves? So I guess to the M&A question, I would say that we've seen these markets before, and it does present opportunities for us. And of course, the company will continue to look at those opportunities and assess them to see if they fit strategically with us and offer us additional growth opportunities and value for our shareholders.
Fantastic, Jo. And just one final question. Do you seek feedback from end users for all the products?
Yes, in different time frames. So, for example, on our medical cannabis business, we track all the data. We're building a very rich database to assist doctors, and so we look at what the repeat patients and what they're being prescribed for. Hence, that data I spoke to earlier in the presentation. So that's probably a little quicker because typically a patient might use a bottle over a month, depending on what you're treating. So that's quite live and real time. In terms of Swiss, I'm getting some really great feedback on our hemp seed products that have only just been launched. I have been told that they are very well received in the market, and hence we're up to our fourth purchase order in those products, and we haven't really technically officially launched them. So I get that data, and then as you go further, you start getting scan data as well, but I don't have that data as yet. But you know, they're quite communicative, the retailers, in terms of what's happening, and it's reflected in multiple purchase orders that we're receiving, because they're not now just for pipe fills, they're actually for sell-through.
Jo, in the most recent announcement, you mentioned that the company has a low churn rate when it comes to medicinal cannabis prescriptions. Why do you think Bod's churn is so low in this regard?
Well, I'd like to think it's because of the quality of our product. So quality and efficacy is at the core of everything we do, whether it's medicinal cannabis or our consumer products. You know, and we've supported that with research. You'll all know that we've done a phase 1 clinical trial on our product, and it looked at the safety tolerability of our product. It also looked at bioavailability and how bioavailable it was for patients. And so, you know, obviously our product is a pharma grade, it's a full plant extract. So we believe in this whole, all of the other cannabinoids and the health benefits that they work together in terms of delivering a better result for patients. So I think that the churn rate is a really good measure to see if, you know, the patient is getting relief on the indication it was treated for. And yeah, I think it plays right to the heart of doctor confidence and patient satisfaction.
And just one final one, Jo. Again, really appreciate your time today. In terms of the UK regulatory environment for CBD products, how are they treated by the UK regulator?
So we are allowed to sell our product over what we call over the counter, so to consumers. It's classed as a food supplement. So our current product, our 5% product here in Australia, that's classed as a Schedule 8 drug, we can sell over the counter in the UK, and it's classed as a food supplement. And then in addition to that, there is this medicinal cannabis pathway as well, and those they're for sort of more higher dose products, and they're for obviously specific chronic indications.
Fantastic, Jo. Well, look, that's all the time we have today. But I just wanted to, sorry, one last question has come through. So, Jo, we'll make this the final question, and then we'll wrap it up for today. How's the product launch in Australia been received for the Schedule 4 CBD isolate medicinal cannabis as opposed to Schedule 8 medicines? And have you noticed a significant slowdown in the market since COVID-19, or has the demand remained fairly constant as the medicine is an essential service?
Okay, so two parts to that question. The first one is the isolate. So that's just hit the market. So for anyone that doesn't know, we brought in 2 products, which we call an isolate, which is just a straight CBD compound, 2.5% and 10%. And we've already received 40 prescriptions for those products, and bear in mind they've only been available for the last sort of few weeks. So we've got 40 prescriptions that we got for March. So I would suggest that they will be well received for a number of reasons. But we look at what is being prescribed in the Australian market. For example, we can look at what products are being prescribed and what is the profile. And the benefit of an isolate, it's classed as a Schedule 4. So it doesn't have, from a patient perspective, you know, it doesn't have limitations around driving, for example. That's just a very basic level. And some patients prefer, as the first line of treatment, to go to a straight CBD product with no levels of THC in it. So I guess it's about offering a broader suite of products to our patients and doctors, so that they have more choice, I guess, in terms of prescribing. So I would say that they will continue to be well supported. There was 34% of the market that we weren't able to support with our full spectrum, and that's why we brought out these isolates. So arguably we now can get access to a further 34% of the whole addressable market that we weren't playing in as a consequence of those products. To the second point, we don't see any decrease because of COVID, and specifically because medicinal cannabis is being treated or prescribed for what we call chronic indications or chronic conditions. So that could be anything from epilepsy to chronic pain to stress and anxiety. So these are things that unfortunately don't go away with COVID. And so, you know, that continues. And as I said earlier in the presentation, one of our clinics actually said to us that March was the biggest month they've ever had. I'm seeing that in terms of our prescriptions. And so, yes, because I think the sheer nature of the way people are using medicinal cannabis and for the indications, they are chronic and therefore they don't they're not reduced in this type of COVID environment. And further, the distribution through telehealth and moving doctors into that telehealth console is, I think, a great thing. And also it makes it more affordable for patients because often it's bulk bills, and so it's becoming more cost effective for patients, which is a really important thing. And those in rural environments as well, you know, it makes it much more accessible.
Fantastic, Jo. Well, look, that's all the time we have today. Thank you all for joining me today. And I'd also like to thank Jo for her presentation and taking the time to answer some questions. I understand that we might have missed out on a couple, but look, keep sending through the questions to my email at alex@investorstream.com.au, and I'll forward them to Jo and we'll try and get them answered for you as well. As I mentioned before, a recording of the webinar will be on the Bod Australia website later today. And also on all the social media websites as well, so you'll be able to find them there. But again, thanks very much for joining us today. Jo, thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Thanks for organising it.
No dramas at all. And look, thanks guys. Have a happy and safe Easter, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Cheers.